Shabbat Shalom. This is Larry Mitchell with Friends of Israel. This morning we're going to be beginning a three-part series on Simchat Torah, the rejoicing in the law. In the Old Testament period, it was a relatively minor holiday, but today, especially amongst the Orthodox Jews, it has become a major holiday celebrating the law. Let me just give a quote from This Is My God from Herman Wouk that describes what Simchat Torah is like. This day has become one of the merriest in the Jewish calendar. The reading of the Torah comes to an end with the last chapter of Deuteronomy and begins again with Genesis. For this reason, the holiday has acquired another name, the celebration of the law, Simchat Torah. Outside Israel, this feast takes place on the added ninth day. Nobody who has been in a synagogue during the celebration of the law needs to be told what it is like. For one who has never seen it, description will be pale. The manner varies from the exalted frenzy of the Hasidic congregation to the decorous dancing and singing of the elegant Manhattan synagogues. The essence everywhere is the same: excitement, music, joking, joy, within the usual Solomon precincts of worship. 7 times chanting processions circle the synagogue with all the holy scrolls. Flag-waving children march behind in cheery disorder. Hoary jests sprung year after year draw the same laughter always. The man who speaks the benediction over the last verse of the Torah is the bridegroom of the law. He is immediately followed by the bridegroom of Genesis, saying the blessing over the first chapter of the Bible. A powerful jubilation irradiates into the synagogue. The time comes when the rabbi himself is drawn into rejoicing and solemnly dances with a holy scroll in his arms. My grandfather, patriarchal and reserved all year long, was still performing this dance in his 90s, a few shuffling, tottering steps, his face alight with pleasure as he clasped the Torah in his arms. You know, when we look at the Old Testament passages on what today is known as Simchat Torah, we see nothing like that celebration recorded in the Old Testament. What Simchat Torah original intent probably was for 7 days the children of Israel had been celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles, and it was a pretty exciting holiday for 7 days, staying up late at night, celebrating a holiday dedicated to lights. Men would juggle torches that are burning. It was a time that would wear you out. And so the Lord in His mercy said, look, after the Feast of Tabernacles is over, I want you to take a day of rest. And so we read about this in Leviticus chapter 23, 33 to 36. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of the 7th month shall be a feast of tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. On the first day shall be a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein. 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. And then here is all it has to say, Leviticus 23, about Simchat Torah. On the 8th day shall be a holy convocation unto you. Ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly. Ye shall do no servile work therein. And then we go to Numbers chapter 29, verses 35. We read, On the 8th day ye shall have a solemn assembly. Ye shall do no servile work therein. There's a couple of other passages that talk about the holiday which today is known as Simchat Torah. In 2 Chronicles 7, 9 and 10, it's talking about the day after the Feast of Tabernacles, when Solomon dedicated the temple unto the Lord. And in verses 2 Chronicles 7, 9 and 10 we read, "And in the 8th day they made a solemn assembly, for they kept the dedication of the altar 7 days, and the feast 7 days. And on the 23rd day of the 7th month, he sent the people away into their tents, glad and merry in heart for the goodness that the Lord showed unto David, and to Solomon, and to Israel his people." So for 7 days they celebrated. On the 8th day he sent them home to rest in their tent. And then in Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 18, we read, "Also day by day, from the first day until the last day, he read in the book of the law, and they kept the feast 7 days." That's the Feast of Tabernacles. "And on the 8th day was a solemn assembly according unto the manner." So in other words, the 8th day was a day of rest. So what happened? Well, there's speculation that the Jewish people got tired of just having a day of rest and said, we need to do something. So they decided that they would start celebrating the law. And so Simchat Torah has become a major celebration of the law. Now all that as a background will help us better understand what happened in John chapter 8. And John chapter 8 takes place on Simchat Torah. How do we know that? Well, we start out with John chapter 7 verse 2. "Now the Jews' Feast of Tabernacle was at hand." That is the 7-day Feast of Tabernacles. And then in John 7:37 we see, "In the last day, the great day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried, saying, If any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink." So this was the last day of Feast of Tabernacles. It was on the 7th day. And then we read in John 7:37, or John chapter 7, verse 53, "And every man went into his own house." The Feast of Tabernacles was over. And then in John chapter 8, 1 and 2, we read about the next day. "And Jesus went unto the Mount of Olives. And early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught him." He's teaching on Simchat Torah, the day set apart for rejoicing in the law. And next week we're going to show how the religious leaders of Jesus' days tried to twist the law on the day that was set aside to celebrate the law in order to try to condemn an innocent man. And we'll read about the story of the woman taken in adultery. This is Larry Mitchell. Shabbat Shalom.